I now have the honor of introducing you to the 2018 Teachers College Distinguished Alumni and Early Career Award recipients. Please take note, admitted students. This group of extraordinary individuals is a wonderful example of the caliber of alumni that Teachers College is proud to call our own. Louise Ada has become known as Australia's leading physiotherapy stroke researcher and one of the most published and cited physiotherapists in the world. She has transformed our understanding and practice of stroke rehabilitation by healing and saving lives through motion. Ladies and gentlemen, Louise Ada. Sybil Jordan Hampton, a renowned university administrator and civic leader, made civil rights history as a member of the second cohort of Black students to integrate Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, where in 1962, she became the first African-American student who attended all 3 years to graduate. Ladies and gentlemen, Sybil Jordan Hampton. Etta Kralovec has researched and designed culturally adaptive teacher education programs around the world. She is known as a leader in the national movement to ban homework, and she has channeled more than $3 million in federal grants into an award-winning program to recruit and prepare STEM teachers for Title I schools in border communities between Arizona and Mexico. Ladies and gentlemen, Etta Kralovec. Gabriela Simon-Cereijido is a pioneer in the field of bilingual speech-language pathology and a fierce advocate for the right to communicate in one's language of choice. She has protected 40 million bilingual Americans by developing socially just language policies and formalizing ethical, harm-reducing standards in the bilingual speech pathology field. Ladies and gentlemen, Gabriela Simon-Cereijido. Bradford Manning co-founded Two Blind Brothers, a clothing company for the vision impaired with his brother, both of whom are legally blind. Their clothes incorporate Braille into their designs, and their company not only creates jobs for the visually impaired community, but also raises awareness about blindness, and furthermore, donates 100% of their net profits to medical research. Ladies and gentlemen, Bradford Manning. And last but not least, Thabo Msibi is the youngest university dean in South Africa. He is a prominent activist and spokesman for transgressive education, the incorporation of issues of identity and difference into teaching and learning. Through his teaching, research, and community leadership projects, he is breaking taboos about sexuality and gender in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, Thabo Msibi. I'd like to thank the Alumni Council for their help in selecting such a fine example of the TC alumni community that are making their mark all over the world. If you know of any equally deserving TC alumni, please nominate them. You can find the forms online, and there's also details about it in your program. So right now, I'd like to turn the clock back a little bit and focus on the 1985 Distinguished Alumna, Shirley Chisholm. She is certainly one of TC's most well-known and influential alumni, and one we certainly hope our scholars will aspire to emulate, which is precisely why we've created a dissertation award in her honor. Provost and Dean of the College, Tom James, will now join me on stage to introduce you to the 2018 recipient.
Let me say a couple more words about Shirley Chisholm. She was an early childhood educator. She served in the New York State Legislature. She represented New York City in the U.S. House of Representatives. She was the first African American to be nominated for President of the United States, and she was a lifelong defender of civil and human rights. We're very proud that she's an alumna of this institution, and this dissertation award is in her honor. The award celebrates a piece of scholarship that advances our understanding of the contributions and value of people of color in advancing American democracy. So this is a very deep value in our work, in our research, and everything that Teachers College represents. I'm joined by Kathryn Hill, who is this year's recipient, and her sponsor, her dissertation sponsor, Aaron Pallas, Professor of Sociology of Education. Kathryn is currently working with the Research Alliance for New York City Schools, which is based at New York University, but represents all of the higher education institutions in the city. You have the title of her dissertation in your packet there. It's on Black parents and public schools in New York. It looks at trust and distrust in the relationship between parents and public schools. It's a very fine piece of scholarship, and we're very proud to give this award to Kathryn Hill, who graduated with her PhD last May. So she's also an alumna. Congratulations.
We're very honored that it is now presented at Academic Festival. And just while we're kind of talking about Shirley Chisholm too, for those of you that might have been to the Museum of the City of New York recently, there's actually a very prominent display on Shirley Chisholm in the Beyond Suffrage, A Century of Women in Politics exhibit. So if it's still up, I encourage you to catch it. But you'll also find Shirley's image in gift shops across New York as one of New York's most famous citizens, and also one of our most famous alumna. So we're excited that that has become part of Academic Festival. And it really brings me so much pride that this day has become such an important day across the TC community, that other campus partners and centers have also come to see this as the occasion befitting the recognition of their award recipients too. So on that note, I'd like to introduce Peter Coleman, Director of the Morton Deutsch International Center for Cooperation and Conflict Resolution.
Consistent with Teachers College core mission of social justice, enhancing, studying, and attempting to mobilize social justice, in 2005 we launched the Morton Deutsch Award for Social Justice, Awards for Social Justice. And these were Mort's attempts, and Mort Deutsch was an eminent scholar and colleague and friend here who passed away last year. And this was his thinking about how to incentivize and celebrate distinguished and early career work in this area. And we're excited this year to introduce two of the two recipients. First, I'll introduce Dr. James M. Jones, who's Professor Emeritus of Psychological and Brain Sciences and Director of the Center for the Study of Diversity at the University of Delaware. Doctor, please. I have a lot to say about Dr. Jones, but I'll give you the highlights. He directed the American Psychological Association Minority Fellowship Program for 28 years, during which time over 1,500 fellows of color earned their PhDs, an extraordinary accomplishment and support. He was the first executive director for the public interest at APA, and during his tenure he established offices on HIV/AIDS, ethnic minority affairs, aging, LGBT, and stress in the workplace. He published a classic, Prejudice and Racism, in 1972, and a second edition of that in 1997. And he's developed an important diversity competency model and scale, which assesses the perspective and attitude and motivation of people to interact and benefit from diverse contexts and relationships. And he's currently focused on implementing those ideas directly in higher education, specifically at the University of Delaware. So if you would be interested in hearing Dr. Jones speak about his work, I think at 11:30 in the social justice block, he'll be speaking directly. And Gerald Wing Su, who is last year's recipient, will be here engaging in a dialogue with you. So please congratulate Dr. And then in addition to a distinguished scholar practitioner, every year we celebrate an extraordinary student paper on social justice that we think is making important inroads in the scholarship. And I'd like to introduce Daniela Romero Amaya, who is a doctoral fellow in the Social Studies Education Program here at Teachers College. And Daniela has conducted teacher training in Bhopal, India, as a summer intern for the Earth Institute at Columbia University in 2015. And prior to starting her PhD, she worked in a semi-rural school in Haiti, doing teacher training and developing an inclusion program for more than 60 students with special needs in the same school. So congratulations to you both. To hear more about their work, please join us afterwards. And I think, do we go here and go this way? All right? Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations to all the honorees today. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's winner of the Presidential Medal of Excellence, Eric Liu, who will present this year's Phyllis L. Kossoff Lecture on Education and Policy. But first a word about Phyllis L. Kossoff herself. Last year, I proudly bestowed the President's Medal on Phyllis for her extraordinary contributions as an educator, her pioneering work to promote awareness and research in the fight against cystic fibrosis, and her many, many contributions to Teachers College. Phyllis has served on the Alumni Council and the President's Advisory Council. She's created a scholarship for students in our Department of Human Development, and most pertinent to us today, established and supports this lecture series through which TC has hosted prominent figures in education, including former U.S. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan and New York Schools Chancellors Dennis Walcott and Carmen Farina. This year, Eric Liu joins that esteemed list. A former speechwriter and policy advisor for President Bill Clinton, Mr. Liu has taken on one of today's most urgent causes, the development of a stronger culture of citizenship through education. As founder and CEO of Citizen University and executive director of the Aspen Institute Citizen and American Identity Program, he is reviving civic participation for the mainstream and, to borrow from his own words, making democracy great again. To help me present, yes. To help me present Eric Liu with the President's Medal, please welcome TC Professor of Social Studies and Education and Director of our Social Studies Education Program, Bill Gaudelli.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you all. Good morning. It is my honor this morning to introduce to you Eric Liu, as you've already been briefly introduced, and read the citation for the Presidential Medal of Excellence. Eric Liu, your call for civic participation is clearly the message for this politically charged moment in our nation's history. Yet long before you delivered the TED Talk that awakened more than 2 million viewers to the importance, and even as you put it, the sexiness of engaged citizenship, Eric Liu was bringing sexy back before Justin Timberlake. And yes, I did have to check if that was Justin Timberlake, and it was, I checked it. Shouldn't reveal that. You were rallying all Americans to shake off their apathy and flex their muscles as participants in our democracy. After graduating from Yale in 1990, you defied those who wrote off our generation as a bunch of slackers, soliciting a diverse group of friends to write about issues that mattered to them. By the time Morton published their piece as an anthology, you were serving as President Clinton's youngest speechwriter. Your own civic fire reflects your experiences as a second-generation Chinese American, eloquently described in your first book, The Accidental Asian, Notes of a Native Speaker. You continue to hold that there are many ways to be an American, declaring that multiculturalism is not at odds with a single common culture, it is a single common culture. You have quite literally taken that secular gospel to the streets, leading, in your words, the revival of an American civic religion complete with civic Saturdays, where civic sermons are preached and civic scriptures are read and sung, with civic seminaries to spread the beliefs of democracy, with joy of voting events to making voting fun and communal, and with a traveling vow renewal ceremony to create sworn again Americans. Can I get an amen? Amen. Your Citizen University conducts national summits and conferences and youth empowerment projects. Your Citizen University features case studies in civic leadership and lessons on how to effect change. And as the head of the Aspen Institute Citizenship and American Identity Program, you unite the best minds to hone the values, systems, and skills of American civic identity and engagement. Eric Liu, at the end of your TED Talk, you invite listeners to contribute to the creation of an every man's curriculum of civic power. We can't think of a better way to describe the gift you've given all of us, Eric, for demonstrating our individual and collective ability to speak truth to power, to exercise our democratic rights, for expanding our understanding of what it means to act as Americans, and of course, for making civics sexy again. We proudly present you with President's Medal of Excellence. Congratulations.